Welcome to First Encounters, where we share what it's like to visit a place in the national park system for the very first time.
There's a particular quality to places where the land itself is still being written. Kenai Fjords National Park sits at the edge of the Kenai Peninsula in south central Alaska, and it announces itself long before you reach the park boundary. Seward, the small coastal town that serves as its gateway, is tucked away at the head of Resurrection Bay, with mountains rising so steeply on every side that the town feels less like a destination than a threshold. In a way, that's exactly what it is. The park protects more than 600,000 acres of ice, fjord, and coastline. The Harding Icefield, one of the largest ice fields in the United States, sits at its heart, feeding glaciers that have been carving this landscape for thousands of years. Some of those glaciers reach to sea. Kenai Fjords is one of the few places in the country where you can witness that on a single day's visit. We started at the Visitor Center in downtown Seward, a natural first stop before heading into the park. The exhibits here orient you quickly: the geography of the peninsula, the scale of the Harding Icefield, the relationship between the ice above and the fjords below. There's a real sense here of landscape in motion. Not geological motion you can observe in an afternoon, but motion measured in retreats and advances tracked decade by decade. The drive from Seward to Exit Glacier is the only road access into the park, about 9 miles out along the Resurrection River Valley. You follow the river until the mountains close in and the valley narrows, and then suddenly, at the end of the road, the glacier is there. Exit Glacier is a valley glacier, fed from the Harding Icefield above. It has been retreating for most of recorded observation, and the trail system here is built around that fact. Wooden markers along the paved loop indicate where the glacier's edge stood in different years: 1950, 1980, 2005. The distance between them is not subtle. We made it just past the 2010 marker, and even there the glacier was still about a quarter mile away. A friend of ours who works at the park remembers standing at the same point in 2010 and being able to touch the ice. That distance, that absence, tells you something no exhibit panel can. The Harding Icefield Trail begins just above the glacier viewing area and climbs, steeply and without apology, through forest, then subalpine meadow, then bare rock. The trail gains roughly 1,000 feet per mile. It's not a casual walk, but the reward, even in stages, is extraordinary. Each bench in the climb opens a wider view of the glacier below and the ice field above, and the visual relationship between the two becomes clearer the higher you go. We made it above the top of cliffs, the point where the trail emerges above the tree line, and we were greeted by a family of mountain goats. The snowfields beyond that point were covering the trail, so that's where we turned around. But even there, just above the cliffs, the view was something we were not prepared for. The ice field wasn't visible yet. That came higher up, closer to the full overlook. But what we could see was the valley below us, Exit Glacier snaking down from the high country, and the ring of peaks holding everything in. It felt like standing at the edge of a world that operates by different rules than the one you drove from. The second day took us out of Seward Harbor on a major marine boat tour into the fjords, a full-day trip that follows the coastline south and west into Aialik Bay. Most of the park has no road access. The only way to reach the outer coast, the tidewater glaciers, the sea stacks, the wildlife colonies, is by boat or float plane. The boat tour is the most accessible version of that, and it covers remarkable ground. The coastline here is relentlessly dramatic. Rocky headlands, kelp beds close to shore, waterfalls dropping straight into the sea. At one point we passed Aialik Cape, a jagged wall of rock that divides the bay, and the transition in texture and scale on the other side was immediate. We saw humpbacks bubble feeding, a behavior that still seems almost improbable no matter how many times you witness it. A group of whales working together, releasing curtains of bubbles to concentrate fish, then rising through the center with mouths open. The boat held position and the crew held their commentary, and for a few moments everyone on deck was simply watching. tufted puffins along the cliffs, bald eagles on the rock above the waterline, sea otters floating on their backs in the kelp, entirely unbothered. Steller sea lions hauled out on a rocky point, enormous and loud and smelling exactly the way you'd expect. And then Aialik Glacier. Tidewater glaciers are a different category of experience than valley glaciers. The boat approaches slowly, and as it does, its scale shifts. The face of Aialik is several hundred feet high and nearly a mile wide. The blue of the ice, that deep compressed blue that appears where the air has been forced out over centuries, is a color that has no real equivalent anywhere else. The third day we went up, literally. We climbed aboard AA Seward Air Tours for a fixed-winged flight over the Harding Icefield, which is something that's hard to frame in advance, because nothing in the approach to it prepares you for what you see once you're over it. Cloud cover kept us from landing on the ice field, which was a possibility, but the flight itself delivered something the ground and the water couldn't: perspective. True, uninterrupted, overwhelming perspective. The Harding Icefield covers nearly 700 square miles. From above, it looks like the world simply ran out of anything other than ice. Mountains, the nunataks, the peaks that protrude above the ice surface, appear as dark punctuation in an otherwise unbroken white field. The glaciers that originate here and flow outward in every direction are visible all at once, each one a slow river of compressed ice heading toward the sea. Kenai Fjords is a park that offers itself at multiple scales and rewards visiting in more than one way. On the ground at Exit Glacier, the park is intimate. You can walk where the ice once flowed. On the water in Aialik Bay, it becomes coastal and wild, full of motion and noise and life operating entirely on its own terms. From the air above the ice field, it becomes something closer to geological fact. The ice isn't scenery, it's a force. If there's a single thing Kenai Fjords left us with, it's this: the sense that the planet is still at work here in ways that are visible on a human timescale, and that witnessing that from whatever angle you can manage is worth the effort to get here.
If you found this helpful, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. We share new park stories, trails, and first visits regularly. You'll find links below to help you explore further. And if you visited here yourself, we'd love to hear about your experience in the comments. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time in the park.